Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot using FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's PPR mock draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. We'll be drafting up against the expert consensus rankings from FantasyPros, as well as the composite ADP from ESPN, NFL, Sleeper, and RT Sports. I did make an adjustment to the positional value of wide receivers to high, because I feel like this year, unlike in prior seasons, we are going to be seeing a lot more wide receivers going earlier on in fantasy drafts at a higher rate. But before we can get into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. While you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot. Now, the 8th overall spot this year is pretty interesting because it is very easy to forecast more than likely what's going to happen in the first 6, 7 picks ahead of you. You know that most of the time, Jefferson, Chase, Hill, and Cooper Kupp, the big 4 wide receivers, are going to be gone. And more than likely, 3 running backs or just 2 will go in front of you. Most of the time, that is Eckler and McCaffrey, and then sometimes you see someone who's really high on Kelsey, might take Kelsey with the 3rd or 4th overall pick, or sometimes Kelsey will go right before you at the 107. So normally, from the 8th overall spot, you kind of know the players that you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at guys at wide receiver like Diggs, Lamb, St. Brown, Adams, A.J. Brown. At running back, you're going to be looking at Barkley, Bijan, Pollard, Nick Chubb. Normally, Kelsey is going to be gone, so at that point, I'm not really confident in taking a tight end in the first round not named Kelsey. I think it is possible that at the end of the season, Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, Pitts, one of these guys outscores, or Waller, Travis Kelsey, but I'm not taking that risk in the first round. And then all the quarterbacks are typically available unless you have someone that goes rogue, shakes the draft up, and drafts a quarterback with the first couple of picks. So this draft began Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, as well as Travis Kelsey. So a very normal start to the first round. I have seen Kelsey go as high as pick like 3 or 4. In a 12-team league, I don't really get doing that. I would much rather have a guy like Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, any of those guys ahead of Kelsey. I don't think Kelsey is a bad first-round pick. I do get the philosophy in drafting him higher, but for me, I'm a lot more comfortable, say, at pick 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 when it comes to drafting Kelsey. But obviously, if you are an earlier pick in the first round and you want Kelsey, you have to pay the very high price because he's not coming back to you in the second round. So looking at the players available, like I said, Diggs, Lamb, St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Adams, and then running backs are Barkley and Bijan, Robinson, Pollard, Nick Chubb. I think from this spot here, every option really seems good. Like, if I wanted to go running back, I'd go Bijan. If I wanted to go receiver, I would go Stephon Diggs. I think both of those players are incredibly safe. I get that some people are worried about Atlanta, right? Maybe Desmond Ridder sucks donkey ass, but at the end of the day, Bijan Robinson is going to be seeing so many looks that even if the Atlanta Falcons are terrible, one of the worst teams in the NFL, Bijan is going to be given so much opportunity game in and game out. To me, I would consider taking him right after all of those big receivers and running backs are gone, right? So after McCaffrey, Eckler, Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, and Hill are gone, that's where I start to consider taking Bijan Robinson. So I'm happy to get him at the 1.08. But if you wanted to go with Stephon Diggs, I wouldn't think that was really all that crazy. It was kind of a coin flip for me between the two. After Bijan, we see Stephon Diggs, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. The second round opens with A.J. Brown, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Derrick Henry, and Tony Pollard. I was hoping we would maybe luck into Tony Pollard or 9-inch Nicholas Chubb falling to us in the second round, but we obviously don't get that. Kind of a bonus knowing how things went that we did go with Bijan over Diggs, because if we went with Diggs, there's like a 0% chance, knowing what we know about Jonathan Taylor right now, that I'm selecting Jonathan Taylor at the 205. Knowing that the Patriots are probably going to bring in another running back, I don't really want to draft Stevenson at the 205 either. I think Jacobs is going to come back, so he would be my most likely selection if I wanted to go running back here. But again, there is definitely risk with that. He could just fucking hold out the whole season. I don't think he will, but that is possible. So we're just going to go receiver. Best receivers available are Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Olave. The Saints offense looked really good in that preseason game today. But again, it's preseason. You don't need to blow your load watching that and just think the Saints are the second coming of the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, this is a really easy selection. I don't want to go quarterback here. I think it's a little too high to go with Mahomes, Allen, or Hurts. I think there is a chance that Hurts maybe swings back to us in the third round. He's my quarterback one. So we're going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The volume is very clearly going to be there for him in Detroit. Jameson Williams has been he was terrible in that preseason game. There has been talks about how he's not looking the best in training camp either. Ultimately, I think Jameson Williams is going to be fine, but he's suspended for the first 6 games. I've talked about this a ton. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown could get 10, 11, 12 targets in all of those first 6 games. I love this Detroit Lions offense. I think Jared Goff's a lot better than most people consider him to be, and I'm really excited about Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has been basically on fire ever since he started heating up at the end of 2021. After Amon-Ra, we see my boy Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Smith, and Josh Allen. The third round opens with Najee Harris, Chris Olave, Pat Mahomes, Mark Andrews, DK Metcalf, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon did get banged up in that preseason game, but then I read that he came back into the game and scored a touchdown, I think. So maybe no need to worry. I was a little panicked early on, though, about that Joe Mixon news. So we are back up on the clock here. Bijan and Amon-Ra are on our team. If we're going running back, to me, it's very clearly either Breece Hall or Jahmyr Gibbs, but we did draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I've talked about this a bunch in the past, in these mock drafts, in even these draft strategy videos, that I am content taking players from the same team that are on really good teams. Now, the Lions have the potential to be really good. They also could be fraudulent, right? This Mickey Mouse team, they looked great last year. Maybe they end up sucking. Now, I don't think that is going to happen, but in the third round, I'm probably not going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs if I just drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, I like both of them individually, just not necessarily for the same team. In this scenario, in the fourth round, things are a little bit different. Breece Hall is going to potentially be a legitimate league winner, running back one in fantasy football, but there's still the looming Dalvin Cook narrative over him. There's still a chance they add another running back, and that does kind of scare me right now in the third round. In the fourth round, I'm more willing to take that risk. So to me, it's basically wide receiver. I'm not taking a quarterback here. I don't want to be taking, even though I love Lamar Jackson, I love a lot of these deeper quarterbacks. Justin Fields is a guy that I'm all over, but I'm not taking one of those guys when Jalen Hurts went fucking 2 picks before me, right? That feels like a reach. Now, there are going to be leagues that you guys may be in where there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks gone by the end of the fourth round. Like the big 3 go, and then maybe Burrow goes, Lamar goes, maybe Herbert, Fields go. So in those kind of leagues, you may have to reach up if you want one of those guys, but I think there's a chance Fields comes back to us in like the 5th round. Maybe Lamar falls to us in the 4th round, so I'm not feeling the need to pull the trigger here super early. I have Calvin Ridley ranked the highest. I drafted him in all of these mock drafts, so I do understand that some people would be nervous doing so. Again, it is a mock draft in a real league. You do kind of want to diversify. You don't want to draft Calvin Ridley every single time at the end of the 3rd round, because if Calvin Ridley was to get hurt, or maybe I'm just wrong, all of these reports are all fugazi, and Calvin Ridley just sucks donkey cock, then maybe things go wrong for Ridley. But I believe in this offense. I believe he's the wide receiver 1. He played decent in his season debut, right? 21 yards against Dallas, nothing special, but he looked like Calvin Ridley, right? He didn't look like the watered-down version of Calvin Ridley that some people are worried about. He didn't look like he lost a step. He looked like he was thrown back to 2020 when he was balling out with Matty Ice Baby and Julio Jones in Atlanta. After Calvin Ridley, we see T. Higgins, followed by Lamar Jackson, Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, and Keenan Allen. Sadly, none of the running backs that I was interested in potentially taking in the 4th round, which would have been Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs, or Breece Hall, fall to us. Not unexpected, but definitely thought maybe one of them would fall, right? 2 teams here, the 10th and the 11th hole, went triple running back with their first 4 picks, which I feel like is definitely a zig when people are zagging, right? It feels like this year a lot of people want to go wide receiver heavy, and they're going running back heavy. So maybe that ends up paying dividends this season. We shall see, because obviously the hot draft strategy right now is this hero running back. It's that jam in receivers early on that we're kind of utilizing. We utilize in a lot of drafts because, again, I think that's the best strategy. So our team right now, we got Bijan, St. Brown, and Calvin Ridley. At this point, I get why people like Sanders. I definitely get it. But in the 4th round, like, you're really hoping everything goes right for the Carolina Panthers, that Miles Sanders is this clear workhorse running back that I'm just not sure that he is. Hawkinson is a decent pick in the 4th round. I've talked about this a couple times as well. Just a really safe pick, right? I don't really feel like Hawkinson, with the addition of Jordan Addison there, is really going to elevate himself to surpass Travis Kelce, or maybe whoever finishes as the tight end 2. But I think he's pretty safe bet to be like the tight end 3 through 5. And if that's something you're looking for, you can go Hawkinson. But I'm looking for that pure, unadulterated upside, that tight end 1 upside, where I think... Look, I don't like Kittle this year, but I think if everything goes right, you could literally see Kittle sit atop of the throne as the tight end 1. Waller, Pitts can do that. Hawkinson, Goddard are more of the safer kind of picks. So we're just going to go wide receiver here. I don't know if Justin Fields will fall to us in the 5th round. The 4th seems a little high for him. Obviously, he sliced up the Tennessee Titans defense in preseason. He threw the ball like 9 total air yards. And maybe we'll pull up the stats here because it's very funny. Stellar and limited action. He completed all 3 passes for 129 yards. I think, yeah, and did not go past line of scrimmage. Yeah, neither of those passes, those touchdowns to DJ Moore, wiki, or Khalil Herbert went past line of scrimmage, but hey, he was saucing. That offensive line looked pretty decent. I think the offensive line is going to look better. I'm excited about the addition of DJ Moore, but in the 4th round... I'd definitely rather wait and go with the receiver here. Best receivers available: Cooper, Godwin, Debo, DeAndre Hopkins, Drizzy Drake, London. For me, I think that DJ Moore is going to end up as a 4th round pick by the time you're drafting. I think people are going to really talk themselves into him. I've already done that. I was already full go mode with DJ Moore, but I think that big touchdown is going to make his ADP rise. And rise quickly at that. But we're going to go Amari Cooper here. I talked about him in my video earlier today. Talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. Maybe. Actually, I don't think I did, but talking about these wide receivers that are league winners, I think Amon-Ra is a league winner. I think Calvin Ridley's a league winner. I think Amari Cooper's a league winner, right? These are all guys that I project to see a whole lot of volume in their offense. I think Amari Cooper's the clear wide receiver 1. I think the Cleveland Browns bounce back in a big way. I don't even think it actually takes Deshaun Watson going back to his former glory as like a top 3, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. As long as Deshaun Watson plays better than the absolute dog shit performance that he put up towards the end of last season when he came back from that suspension, then Amari Cooper is wheels up to potentially finish as a top 12 receiver. I think there's a chance this season falls so well for us that with Amon-Ra, Ridley, and Cooper, we could have 2 top 8-ish wide receivers, like maybe St. Brown finishes like wide receiver 6, Ridley wide receiver 8, and then Cooper finishes as wide receiver 12. So potentially 3 top 12 performances out of wide receivers, and that's what I'm looking for in the 3rd, the 4th round, these top 12 upside guys. After Amari Cooper, we see Chris Godwin, whose ADP is kind of crazy on FantasyPros. Like, he really feels like a 6th round pick, not a 4th round pick. After that, D-Hop, Justin Fields, sadly, Debo Samuel, wiki, DJ Moore, Miles Sanders, Damian Pierce, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, George Kittle, J.K. Dobbins, just kidding, T.J. Hawkinson, Drizzy Drake, London, and Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Skirt. J.K. Dobbins, it appears, might be closer to signing a contract. So that's good. We won't have to deal with not having J.K. Dobbins, but if he doesn't sign that contract, and even if he does, I'm kind of worried about the fact that I think they're going to use Gus more than people like. I think this is going to be an offense that turns more pass-heavy under Monken. This is a situation I'm kind of staying wary of. Burrow in the 5th round, at some point when he falls, the reports have been positive right today. Seeing a lot of positive notes about Joe Burrow. If he's good to go week 1, probably a steal in the 5th round. But the one thing about these kind of quarterbacks is, would it really shock anyone if Herbert finished ahead of Burrow? Would it shock anyone if Lawrence finished ahead of Burrow? None of these guys have crazy rushing upside. Now, none of them are necessarily statues in the pocket either, but none of them can rush for 1,000 rushing yards, right? We saw Watson looking to try to run the ball a little bit in Cleveland. I think I'd rather just wait at this point. I'd rather get a running back or a receiver, maybe even a tight end at this spot. Again, it's not that I hate Joe Burrow. I love Joe Shiesty. I think he could easily finish as a top 5 quarterback, but does he really have that ceiling to be the QB1? I don't think so. He'd have to pass for a shit ton of yards. It's possible. It is possible, so I'm not saying it's impossible. impossible, but not just something I'm really looking to do here in the 5th round. Again, some people say that's crazy, but I'd rather just stay away from that. I think our best pick here is going either running back or wide receiver. I know we already have St. Brown, Ridley, and Cooper, but I think you could play the matchup game, or maybe one of these guys ends up as a stud, because you got to remember in redraft leagues, you can make trades and shit. So if we find 4 receivers that end up hitting the nuts, like, you could realistically trade. For instance, we take Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson gets peppered game in and game out by Kenny Pickett, who looked really good in that preseason action. Again, not trying to overreact to preseason action. I just talk about it because if you guys didn't watch, there's like a million games going on, and I don't know if everyone's watching. I figure I could talk about things. So maybe DJ looks really good, and boom, all 4 of these guys are top 12. Well, maybe you can ship one of them off for an upper echelon running back. That's something I kind of think about. The safe pick here, if I'm being completely honest, is Burrow. Even though I don't want to take him here, he's the safest pick. I think we're going to go running back and then tight end, though. So looking at the board, Madison, Connor, Akers. Rashad White did get hurt today. Non-contact injury at practice. Non-contact. He buckled and fell without contact and came up limping. Does not sound good. Now, he walked off under his own power and received attention from the training staff. So, not full-on panic mode, but it's definitely like, let's start to look at things. I was not someone who was even drafting Rashad White in general, but when I say that, it's not like I'm fucking hip hooray that he got hurt, right? I don't want anyone to get hurt. That sucks. I hope he's okay. But anytime it's non-contact and something buckles, it doesn't sound good, but I'm praying for the best for Mr. Rashad White. So for me, it's between Madison, Connor, Akers. Kamara's backup got hurt today, and that is Kendre Miller. Jamal Williams obviously still there. His injury, again, something to monitor. If Kendre Miller ends up missing serious time, while I was someone who was really off on Alvin Kamara, I think I would just have to buy in at that point, because Kendre Miller was the guy that could take away some of Alvin. Like, he's like mini Alvin Kamara, Walmart Alvin Kamara. So if something was to happen to him, and it's serious, now again, we don't know right now, that would definitely move Kamara up my rankings. I think we're going to go back here, though. Madison, Connor, or Akers, pick your poison here. I do worry about the fact that maybe Kareem Hunt signs in Minnesota. I worry that Ty Chandler looked so good in Minnesota in that preseason action. But again, don't want to overreact to preseason. I still have Madison ranked the highest. But again, in the 5th round, if Madison, Connor, and Akers are there, I'm probably taking a different one of them if I'm in 3 leagues every single time. I know Akers burned a lot of fantasy players last year. He legitimately fucked you over, bent you right over the table, didn't even use any lube. He sucked ass for the majority of the season. Then he requests trade, doesn't get traded, comes back towards the end of the season, catches fire NBA Jam style. I understand the Rams offense isn't going to be great, but to me, when you look at the backs behind Akers, it is just a wasteland of backs that can't even hold Cam Akers' jockstrap. So Akers is going to be the workhorse there, guy. After that, we see Alexander Madison, Christian Watson, Joe Shiesty, Deontay Johnson. The 6th opens with Justin Herbert the pervert, Darren Waller, Mike Evans, and Lawrence. Kind of disappointed none of them fell back to me. I guess I could have seen that coming because none of these teams had a quarterback besides the Lamar team. But it does suck. Also sucks that the boy Darren Waller fell. Best available player, according to FantasyPros, is Goddard. I've talked about this ad nauseum as well. Goddard is just a safe tight end. I don't think Goddard really has this ceiling any given week, unless there was an injury to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, knock on wood, to really backpack your team, put your team on his back. But he's also never really going to fuck you over, right? He's never going to score like 3 fantasy points. But I don't know if he has the upside to really, in any given game, be like the tight end one. He's a safe pick. He's as safe as it gets. But in the 6th round, am I really looking for the safest tight end available? Probably not. Maybe you are. Maybe you like Goddard, and that's fine as well. I'm not saying that Goddard's a bad pick. There's just nothing gets me going. Like, I don't get all excited to, if I'm in the 6th round of my fantasy league, I'm in front of the draft board, I'm looking at the board, I'm not looking at the Goddard sticker, and I'm not getting super excited to smack that pick on the board, right? I'm just like, all right, I drafted Goddard. It is what it is. So looking at our team, Bijan, Akers, Amon-Ra, Ridley, and Amari Cooper. Here it's either running back or receiver. I'm not taking Goddard. I'd rather chance things next round and maybe get Pitts or just wait at the tight end position. So running backs, Connor is still available. I think given the fact that there's clearly risk with Akers, we'll just go with James Conner, division mates with the LA Rams. Connor's a guy that I've talked up a ton this offseason. This is an offense that obviously isn't going to be the best, but James Conner has been dominant. He has been amazing. He has been putting up huge numbers when Kyler Murray hasn't been there over the last 2 years. So even if the offense looks a little limp dick without Kyler Murray, I think James Conner is a shoo-in to get a lot of targets. The quarterback's going to dump the ball off a ton. The offensive line is pretty suspect in Arizona. So I'm a big fan of James Conner this year. There's obvious injury risk with him, but that's negated by the fact that he goes in like the 6th round after James Conner, Rachaad White, Kyle Pitts, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, Mike Williams, Deshaun Watson, Christian Kirk. The 7th opens with Javonte Williams, James Cook, Dalvin Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery, and Tua Tagovailoa. So I'm glad we went with double running back here because by the time we swung back around, there's a lot of receivers I still like, and there are no running backs that I'm excited to draft in the 7th round. I like A.J. Dillon. I love Khalil Herbert. I like Brian Robinson a decent amount. But in the 7th fucking round, I'm not drafting A.J. Dillon. I'm not drafting a handcuff in the 7th round. You got me tripping if you think I'm going to be doing that. So we're up on the board here. It's either Goddard or Ayuk. Again, at some point, this is just too far of a fall for Goddard. It's definitely possible because people are going to talk themselves into Pitts. And again, Goddard's just a super safe option. We're going to go with Goddard. His best ADP is 51. His ECR 70. We're at pick 80. I don't think that's very logical that that's even going to ever happen. So I guess for the sake of the mock draft, we're not going to take him. But if this is a real draft, we would take him because, again, that fall is just too crazy. So we're going to go receiver here. Looking at receivers, Ayuk, Hollywood Brown, Michael Pittman, Dotson, Addison, Pickens. Pickens made a real nice catch in that Steelers preseason game. I don't love Ayuk, but I get why people like Ayuk, right? He's on the Niners. I think Big Cock Brock Purdy is going to be the starting quarterback. I think Deebo Samuel might not be as great as people think. If something was to happen to Kittle or Deebo, Ayuk would be shot into superstardom. He's looked really good in training camp, too. A lot of really positive reports out of him. He looked really good last season, so it wouldn't shock me if he really feasted this year. In the 7th round, we already took James Conner, so while I like Hollywood, that kind of devalues him. Michael Pittman, I love Michael Pittman. I love Jahan Dotson. I love that bad bitch Jordan Addison Ray, but again, try to be a little bit different. We're going to go with Ayuk this time. Again, really high upside for him. Just again, another one of those guys where I don't feel super excited to draft him, but if he's available later, I will take him. And it says that was a steal. I don't think Ayuk really should be going as high as they say that he should. But if he wasn't there, just imagine you say, Nick, it's impossible to get Brandon Ayuk in the 7th fucking round. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Just imagine Michael Pittman was on the team instead. After Ayuk, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, George Pickens, Treylon Burks, Juju Smith-Schuster, Corvette, 49ers defense, Michael Thomas, and Jahan Dotson. So we're back up on the board. Dallas Goedert is still here, but we're not taking him. We're not taking him. Looking at quarterback based upon the rosters, us and one other team don't have a quarterback. So the question is, how much higher do we value certain players versus others? Personally, I think I like Daniel Jones more than Dak, but it's not by like a wide margin. So if by the time we pick again, I don't think anyone else is going to take a quarterback. There is reason to believe, though, if you are in a more casual league, that people might just take 2 quarterbacks, right? This team that took Tua, maybe they took Tua because they like where he fell, but they're nervous about the injury. There's a chance that this team takes another quarterback in the 8th round in a real draft. Now, I'm not saying in a mock draft like this. I don't think so. The team that took Watson may not be as confident. They might take a backup quarterback in the 7th or in the 8th, 9th round. There's even people that'll draft Patrick fucking Mahomes in the 3rd round. And then, in the 9th round, take a backup quarterback. So it is entirely possible that we get sniped on one of these guys, but I don't feel way better about one versus the other. I think we're just going to go with a running back here in the 8th round. It is a little bit of a reach, but I love Khalil Herbert. Again, he made that solid play in that preseason game. I believe he's the true running back one on this team. I really don't think that Roschon Johnson or Donta Foreman will take that from him. Now, they're going to work in. It's not like Khalil Herbert's going to be some workhorse back like Christian McCaffrey or some shit like that, seeing like 80, 95% of the snaps or something ridiculous like that. But I do like this Bears offense. I've talked about it ad nauseum. him. I really think Khalil Herbert is the clear number one back here. He looks great in his efficiency metrics. And again, I think this offensive line is going to be better. This team is going to be better. And I want to take shots on guys like Herbert on an offense that I think is going to explode, go nuclear, fucking Oppenheimer style in 2023. After Herbert, we see Rashad with 2A's Penny, Samaje P. Ryan, JSN, AJ Dillon, Eagles defense, Jordan Addison Ray, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Kadarius Toney, Brian Robinson, Devin Two Chains, Damian Harris, and Zach Charbonnet. If we didn't take Khalil Herbert, I would be crying right now that Zach Charbonnet didn't fall to us. This is a guy that I'm clicking in every single fucking draft, man. If something happens to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet literally might be a top 5 running back in fantasy football. Jamal Williams would be a great pick right now because of the Kendre Miller injury. We don't really know the severity of it. Will Fantasy Pros have it? Yep, suffers knee sprain, receiving further testing. So it's still kind of up in the air. Jamal Williams would be a smash for the first 3 weeks if that's the case. But then they probably bring in Kareem Hunt to play like 3 fucking games, which would hurt Jamal Williams, but not a crazy amount because Jamal Williams would still be the goal line back. Here we are going to go quarterback. I like Daniel Jones better than Dak. Sue me if you like Dak better. I know some people will. I think Daniel Jones, just that added rushing upside, the fact that he could go for like 700-800 rushing yards this season is enough for me to kind of push him up, right? 700 rushing yards last year. Maybe it gets even better. I think Brian Daboll really helped Daniel Jones out a ton. He threw some of the most amount of passes, his most receiving yards, not his most passing touchdowns because of the fact that 2019, his rookie year, he just went fucking nuclear. His rushing metrics were the best. He was a lot more accurate than years prior. This wide receiver core looks like the best he's ever had now. I've talked about this a bunch. Like, it's not like the Giants have the best wide receiver core ever, but it's just like Daniel Jones has played with such fucking awful talent at wide receiver that if you just go ahead and look at the depth chart, like even including Darren Waller, it's just miles ahead of what it's been in the past. After Danny Dimes, Elijah Moore, Odell Beckham Jr., Quentin Johnston, Jacoby Myers, Rashad Master Bateman, Jamal Williams, Sky with 2 eyes more, and Dallas Goedert finally comes off the board. So we got 4 running backs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 receivers. Very balanced start. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. Shout out to Thanos. We still don't have a tight end, but at this point, I talk about this a lot too, so sorry if you watch a lot of these videos, but man, what is really the difference between Ingram, Freiermuth, Njoku, Schultz, Higbee? Dulcich is kind of reeking a fraudulent alert. Like, he didn't play with the ones without a catch in the preseason opener. That was kind of scary, right? Adam Troutman earned the start over Dulcich on Friday. That's a little scary for me. Now, again, not fucking DEFCON 5, not full-on panic mode, not full-on fading Dulcich, but that's something to note, right? That maybe we get a little bit diddled by drafting one of these Broncos tight ends. So we're back up on the clock here. I think we're going to go with a receiver here and then probably running back in the next round. Flowers still available. Nico Collins, Rondale Moore, Alan Lazard. I feel very confident that one of these Ravens wide receivers is going to be very valuable. Another one is going to be kind of a spot start. Like, you start him some weeks, might fuck you over. Some weeks, the other weeks, he might go crazy. And then the other receiver is going to kind of be the odd man out. I'm starting to really like Zay Flowers, starting to really like Rashad Master Bateman. Now, Flowers was quiet in the opener on Saturday, but again, don't overreact like Chris Schomer is saying here. Like, he was very impressive through training camp. Nothing really to worry about right now. Obviously, he's not a guy that you're going to have to start week 1 because he's a 10th round pick. I like adding rookie wide receivers later in drafts because you know that they have that crazy upside to deeper into the season just absolutely Hulk smash and end up being a must-start guy at the wide receiver position. After Zay Flowers, Romeo Doubs, Jameson Williams, Nico Collins, Dak Prescott, Tyler Boyd, Rondale Moore, and Adam Thielen. Something to talk about real quick when it comes to rookie receivers. I know a lot of people are just used to Jefferson, Chase, Waddle, these guys in their rookie years just looking like fucking titans in the NFL. You have to understand that not every wide receiver is like that, right? Zay Flowers, while he's incredibly talented, great in college, looks to be in a good spot, and again, a more pass-heavy offense with Baltimore. It's not a lock, right, that Flowers smashes instantly. It might take a couple of weeks, might even take more than you're comfortable with, and you end up cutting him. And that's kind of the annoying thing about rookies is you might end up cutting Zay Flowers. He might be a cut candidate a couple weeks in, and then like by week 12, he's the guy you need, right, to win your championship. And that's why I like kind of stashing these guys on my bench. The 11th round opens with Ingram, Freiermuth, McKinnon, Dak Prescott, Anthony Richardson, Bigsby, Algier, and Jeff Wilson. I just fell to my knees metaphorically. Hank Bigsby is a guy that I am just force drafting onto my team. So we're back up on the clock here. Was hoping to get him Looking at the board, Mitchell. See, is Mitchell back at practice yet? That is a question that I have. Expected to miss a week. Haven't seen anything that he's back yet, but we could see Mitchell. He's the clear handcuff there for CMC. Warren's a solid handcuff for Pittsburgh Steelers. Kendre Miller would be a really good pick now if he wasn't hurt, but he is, so kind of stay away from that. I think we'll just end up going tight end here, and then maybe someone will take a running back or something by the time we get to pick again, and it'll make our decision a little bit easier. Again, any of these guys are fine. Njoku, Schultz, Higbee, Everett, any of those guys that even go later are fine. I like the Browns offense. I will go to battle fucking Jon Snow style with anyone about David Njoku and about this Cleveland Browns offense. People will say, Nick, Deshaun Watson doesn't throw to tight ends. Well, his fucking tight ends are absolutely garbage in Houston. And we all know Deshaun Watson loves a nice tight end. That's sick fuck. So after David Njoku, we see Elijah Mitchell, followed by DJ Chark, baby Chark, Alan Lazard, Zay Jones, Dalton Schultz, Singletary, Cole Kmet, and Raheem the Dream Mostert. I would have loved to get Raheem on this team, but the Dream is still alive because there's other running backs that we like. I think we're just going to go with... See, dude, people are really galaxy running themselves into Kenneth Gainwell. Oh my god, did you see that the other running backs were playing in preseason and Kenneth Gainwell didn't? He's going to be the first string running back on the team. If you think that, you legitimately don't understand football. If you think that Kenneth Gainwell is starting above Rashad Penny or DeAndre Swift without an injury, you are insane. You are insane. It's not going to happen, but Kenneth Gainwell could be thrown into a really good role if there was an injury. I think we might just go with Kenneth Gainwell here. Again, when you're super late in the draft, you kind of just want to sprinkle anyone in. Let's go Lenny this time, though. Uncle Leonard Fournette. Had a decent year last year. Nothing special, obviously. Didn't look like his same self, but he could fall ass backwards into a situation on another team where he ends up being a week in, week out guy that you might want to be starting on your team. Could be interesting, especially if there's an injury to a player, or maybe he's just catching passes on one of these teams, or he's the goal line back, and that's solid, obviously, in deeper leagues, or if you're stuck in a pinch. So after Leonard Fournette, Geno Smith, Chig Okonkwo, Greg Dulcich, Cowboys defense, Jalen Hyatt, Jalen Warren, Donta Foreman, the 13th opens with Kendre Miller, Roquan Johnson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darnell Here comes, the Mooney, Gus Edwards, Kenneth Gainwell, and Robert Woods. So we can either go wide receiver or tight end here. It doesn't really matter to me. Again, normally I'm not a two tight end type of guy, but maybe on this team, I would with Njoku, right? Higbee fell to us. What if they're bye weeks? Njoku's 5. Make sure if you're drafting a backup quarterback or tight end, you make sure that they have different bye weeks. Higbee by 10, Njoku by 5, so that's perfect. If we wanted to go receiver here, probably would have went with Alec Pierce or Hodgins or John Mechie. Any of those guys would be fine for me, so we're going to go Higbee here at this pick. Again, I like this LA Rams offense to be sneaky a little bit better than people think they will be, and it's not like Cam Akers is a sure in our lineup all the time, right? Could be Connor, could be Herbert, could even be Lenny if all things pan out for him. Crazy that we are already this deep in August. We're already almost in the middle of August. And Dalvin Cook isn't on a team. Zeke isn't on a team. Hunt isn't on a team. Neither is Uncle Lenny. Very, very, very strange. Very strange. I thought this would all be resolved quickly, and it still hasn't been resolved. Maybe someone will sign today, and that would be funny. After Higbee, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Fode, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Cotta, Justin Tucker the Fucker, Michael Gallup, Bills, and Bass. We're up on the clock here. We are going to go with Daniel Carlson this time. Again, just pick any kickers. My boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku is my favorite nickname at kicker, but I'm not taking him. Jason Sanders, I don't know why he's ranked so high at kicker. As a Dolphins fan, this guy literally, when he goes to kick the ball, now a couple of years ago, he was legitimately one of the best kickers in the NFL. Kicking is such a mental game. We saw it with Brett Maher. We've seen it with these guys, right? These great kickers, not like Brett Maher is like the second coming of Justin Tucker or something, right? We see these great kickers that just kind of fall. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Not Daniel Carlson. Fuck. Forgot his name. Not Jason Myers. Jason Sanders. I apologize for that. Had a lapse in judgment, like my name was Logan Paul. Jason Sanders, so good. Now he sucks. As a Dolphins fan, though, like I was saying, when he lines up out there, if the game was on the line, 50-yarder for the fucking Super Bowl, I don't even think I'd be able to watch. I don't know what I would do, because obviously I'd be watching because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I'd probably close my eyes and just pray to Jesus, Zeus, basically every god I can think of, the football gods, pray to John Madden, and just hope that the thing goes in. He worries me. I think he might not be the Dolphins kicker the whole season, so I don't know why he's ranked so high. Bunch of kickers, bunch of defenses. Zeke, Jawan Johnson as well. We're back up on the board here to go, or back up on the clock to go with our defense. Defenses are important in fantasy, but you want to just draft them based upon who they're playing in week 1. The Chiefs play the Lions. Don't want to do that. The Steelers, I believe, play the 49ers. Don't want to be doing that. The Saints play up against the Titans. That's a good one. I'd always just go with the Commanders, though. Commanders against the Arizona Cardinals. Then they might go into a disaster-filled Russell Wilson, Broncos country, let's ride, and maybe that's a solid game as well. So our team, to recap, you could have went with the backup quarterback as well, I guess, because we went with Danny Dimes, but I wasn't about to do that. I'm confident in Danny Dimes. 84 out of 100. Danny Dimes, our quarterback. Our running backs are Bijan and Akers. Our receivers are Ridley and Amon-Ra. Our tight end is Njoku. Our flex is Cooper. Our defense is left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. Our defense is Danny Carlson. Our bench is James Conner, Brandon Ayuk, Khalil Herbert, Zay Jones, or Zay Flowers, I apologize, not Zay Jones, Zay Flowers, Leonard Fournette, and Tyler Higbee. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought about today's draft. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.